Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share with you guys another pop-up box card. This one is for my dad who is turning 85, and I can't tell you how happy we all are that he's doing so well after his two heart surgeries in January. And I want to just express my extreme gratitude for all of you guys who periodically ask about him and how he's doing. He's doing really well. He's not as strong as he once was, but he's doing much better than he was in the winter. And I'm so excited to be crafting this card for him. This is the sentiment that I printed off from my computer, and this is the box card in its full glory, all opened up. I'm going to share with you guys the entire process. This is the die set that I use from Lawn Fawn. And this paper is from the Graphic 45 Bohemian Bazaar collection, and I absolutely love this paper. I've been hoarding it for years, but I thought this was the perfect card to use this paper. And what I'm showing you here is that I really took care to perfectly center the square and rectangular dies from the die set so that the pattern is perfectly centered. Now for the structure, I am just gluing this time without using score tape. I wanted to show you guys that you don't need to have, special score tape or anything like that. You can just use wet glue, and I'm putting together the structure there, just gluing the tabs, and then I'm going to position each of the stitch, square, and rectangular die cuts from this paper. This is a double-sided paper, and I made sure to center the dies so that it's either the octagon or the X's from this pattern paper that are perfectly centered in each of the little die cuts. Now I'm going to do the underside flaps as well. These are a little bit more narrow in width, and you can see here I'm using the same paper and the same side of the paper. On the inside of the card, I'm going to use that blue and white check pattern side of the paper, the B side, and that's just so that I can make sure that while there is still a pattern, it's not going to overwhelm the images. And this is me cutting off the edges. I use the main structure die and then cut off the edges, trim them off so that I can have the scalloped background, the top of the scallop for that background piece. And you can see there it has a nice little matte edge, and it will reinforce the back panel structure. And now you see that I'm using the B side of the paper. Again, this is less difficult. As you can see, the pattern is not centered, but it is perfectly straight along the check mark so that it doesn't look like it's off kilter or crooked or anything like that. I did take my time to position those dies. Now I'm using the Lawn Fawn Stitch Mountain dies to create each of the layers of the scene. So the back panel, I'm using a very pale blue. The middle section, I'm using kind of a teal that's coming out to almost like a baby blue. Then I'm using a mid-tone, kind of a royal blue. And that's the stamp set that I'm using. I decided I'm going to focus more on creating the scene and less on Copic coloring. So I'm using the Mama Elephant Tiny Ninjas stamp set. And this is great because there's so much just kind of solid and just a little bit of coloring that's needed. So I'm going to keep it relatively simple. All the skin tones are going to be the same. I'm using an E50 and E51 for a little bit of shading along the sides and the bottom or the underside of the mask area, and then a little bit more shadow just to warm it up a little bit with the E53. Again, all along the edges and the bottom, and then I'm blending back out with an E51. So for this first little ninja, I'm using Y11 and Y19 to give that little ninja a beautiful golden sash or belt. I don't know what you want to call it. And I realized I'd forgotten to color up the hand, so I went back and did that. For the second little ninja, I'm using BG11 and BG15 to give it a nice kind of aqua or teal look. I thought that would coordinate nicely with the pattern paper, the inside pattern, that check, that teal color. And I'm going back in, as you can see here, where the stamping is not totally solid. I wanted to create more of a shadowed look. It doesn't come across very well in the video, but for real life, the shadow using the C7 was really helpful. Then I'm using 3 B colors for that blue sash. And then for these 2 little ninjas, I'm using 2 color tones, a G02 and a G17. And then I'm actually going to go back in, I think maybe off camera, and I use a G29 for the darkest areas, just because I wanted more contrast. And then it's kind of purpley blue. I use those 2 colors. I actually colored up, I think, in total 7 ninjas. And so you can see all the colors that I used on my blog post, which is linked below. Now these little plastic strips, I'm using Ranger Multi-Medium Matte to glue on little strips of plastic that I reclaimed from some craft packaging. It's really stiff, strong, and it adheres really well and gives each of the images an area of lift so that it looks like they're jumping or leaping out into the scene. So as you can see there, it's really easy to do this, and I think it adds a lot of dynamic energy to this card, and it really looks like these little ninjas are leaping out of the scene or tiptoeing across, whatever you want to call it. And I'm adding even more toward the back. So each layer of mountains is getting a, anywhere between 2 and 3 little ninjas jumping out. I'm not going to show every little ninja being glued on, but you get the idea. I got to kind of space them out between or on top of each of the mountaintops. And off camera, I also did add little snow caps to the mountains just because I wanted to have the ninjas pop a little bit more. And I thought that the white was a good backdrop for having the ninjas really pop out of the scene. Then for the throwing stars, I kept the coloring simple. I used the same yellow color combination. And I just fussy cut all of those out, inked the edges with my Memento black marker so that the white edges of the paper didn't show. And now I'm going to add more of those little plastics strips, even smaller ones, from the hands of the ninjas so that it actually looks like the ninjas are throwing these little throwing stars. I think that came out really cute. And it actually, the stars, even though they're supposed to be, I guess, weapons, just because in my mind they're more like stars, it looks like they're throwing like star firecrackers or something like that. A big celebration in my mind for my dad for his birthday card. And I also wanted to show you guys for the wings of the box card structure, I decided I was going to continue on more of that kind of teal mountain. I'm just cutting off the edge there. I wanted the side panels, the wings of the card, to also have those mountains. And I added one more layer of mountains in the front with black cardstock. The sentiment, as you can see there, I printed off from my computer and I matted it with more of that teal cardstock. And this is the completed card. I really like how it came out. I think it'll be a nice little surprise card for my dad and that he'll enjoy this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day.